Hello, and we thankfully welcome you back to another building adventure at Weaver Stonehouse Farms. So we built a handling facility, didn't we, dear?
Yes, we did.
So, as far as I know, on the original farm that we purchased that was sold out of the family that we bought back, there was no handling facility here for cattle, right?
Never.
Never. So it actually all started with us having to blow this back wall out, because the way the barn was originally built, it was built that this was supposed to be filled, backfilled, and this would have been level, and this is all for dairy cattle setup. We clearly don't do dairy. So what we did is we drilled and blew the back wall out a couple of years ago so we could. Why did we need the handling? We had 3 steers that needed, well, we need 3 bulls that needed made into steers, so we had to get them banded. We had no way really to get them into the squeeze chute. It was just sitting in the middle of the field, so it was rough, right?
It was.
It was rough. It was really, really rough. So we learned some wrangling skills. So here's what we did. We got a gate on the backside. Wheels on the gates, that's a definite must-have because my children love to hang on the gates. So this gate pushes open. Now, if you can, depending upon if we get them lined up right, this allows us to get the cow that we added on this feeder panel gate right here. So you can see the feeder panel gate. We put it in with this plastic fencing. That was actually my grandfather's plastic fencing. Tied it on, and this gave us the option to go ahead and swing this out and get a cow or 2 back behind, which is actually what we did if we wanted, or we can feed cattle here. This comes in here, so you can see this gate swinging, and then that gate squeezes, and then it squeezes that cow in to see the only way out is right here, and then the cow can go in. Now our daughters were having a bucket of feed in there, which the cows went straight through, shoved their head through, and it worked out great. So
we also have the ability to sort here.
Correct, because if it's the wrong one, we can drop this and we can let the wrong one through. I added this one in, so if we got more of them in here, we can push the one in that we wanted. So this gate comes over, and now we can squeeze easily and shift that cow into here, into the chute. So that is an absolutely wonderful thing. And this also gives us some backwards capability too, to load cattle out. So then we get cows in here, we can go ahead and push one back through here into this portion. Lock that off, and if we have a cow into here, bring it over. That also gives us that capability to get a cow pushed into the back end of the truck. So it works out very nice.
Hey, Pete.
Happy Pete. We gotta get you a hay bale. Yes.
Yeah, we know.
Now, one of the things that was essential to this, we sunk these posts down pretty good. These were what, 8-footers?
Yeah.
They were moving the weight of the gates and everything else on them. So what we did is we took 2x6s and a lot of GRK screws, tied them back over to the wall, anchored everything in to make it solid. So then the gates, they weren't rocking and rolling. I have wheels on some of them, but not all of them, and it allowed this to stay true. So they're not flipping and flopping, you're fighting gates. It just made things so much better. And then we put some, yes, Pete. And we put some stone down too, so it wasn't as much mud.
As you can see, these gates were all used. We watched Marketplace and auctions and collected these gates over a
long
2-year span of time, probably.
Yeah. I'm ever so grateful for a couple of people. One of them in particular, we made a heck of a deal with a gate dealer that had a bunch of used gates he was ripping out that were, you know, busted up and shot for what he needed. And we ended up, because he put all new in because he's a dealer of them, and we ended up getting all of his old gates, which is phenomenal for this kind of work. You know, and that's one of the things nobody ever wants to talk about is these parts and pieces for the hinges. That takes time. On critical gates to make sure that I have one of those bolts facing down, okay? So the reason I have a bolt facing down is you've got to beat this up, and you can see this is rusted. But years ago, we actually came home from vacation, literally like, I think it was half an hour before we got home, as I was a kid. And Dad built this awesome oak gate. The gate hanging hooks were all facing upwards so that he was able to put his head on a huge, heavy wooden gate, lift it up and throw it and get out. And the reason he got out is we kept apples on the other side because we were feeding apples from the orchard. So yeah, since then, critical gates, lesson learned, when I was a child, you always want to go ahead and install one of these bolts down because then a cow can't lift it up and out. So, and you can see on this one also, critical gate, it's facing down. So I don't get a cow in the chute and it's rocking and rolling and it's trying to do something. Guess what? It ain't getting out of this. Now out here, less critical. I left them up here and I can get this gate off if I need. There's barely enough clearance, but I can actually get the gate out and I can use it somewhere else. Yes, Mom. On our squeeze chute, per a recommendation from our vet, who's also a great friend of mine, he wanted it anchored into the ground. So we took rebar. I literally got like the rebar pieces at Tractor Supply that you end up putting little fencing pieces on. We don't use those, but bend them over, beat them down into the ground, 2 on each side. So you can see there's one beat down into the ground here with a sledgehammer over the pipe, one over here. And then he also wanted it anchored up top, because he said he's seen them flip. So, thankfully, we had a wall.
Short-term solution.
Short-term solution, but hey, these are good for 3,300 pounds, and we're anchored into some GRK braces on that side, and you know, there's a large piece of steel on that side. So, we're pretty good. The other thing I had to do with this is I had to make some adjustments to get this pushed the whole way out to make it a little bit more appealing for the cows to get in. When I had it on the last notch, it was a little tight. The cows didn't want to go in. But as soon as I made it a little bit wider, they loved it. And then the beautiful thing with this, these come down if we need it. The other nice thing that we did with this, we got a rope on it finally. We can squeeze in a little bit if we need. And then the other part is over here. We added this so I can put my foot in it because it's a little bit tough on that. Pop that loose. So that whole thing swings open right here and the cow gets out. And that's one of the things I had to plan for, is I had to have a pathway that was big enough for that cow to get out. One thing to learn about handling cattle, my vet told me this, and also reading the Polyface book on Joel Salatin's cattle handling facility also, which gave me some inspiration for this. No 90s. Cows don't like 90s.
They can't turn.
Yeah, they can turn, but not easily. So whenever we went ahead and did this, I had it tight to here, but it wasn't enough room. Here gave us plenty of room for the cattle to get out. So then we can slam it back shut and get the next one in.
Okay, so top view. So you can see the squeeze chute, and that's the head where the working area is. Come out across. That gate swings open so the vet can get to the backside or we can get in there. That creates the alleyway before it. With a walled off area there, that's the feeder panel. There's that gate where it would swing over to come into this.
For us to get three cattle banded, wormed, and one of them pregnancy tested, so there was 4.
It's like 30 minutes.
Your vet's time where you're at, it can be a lot of money. I'm very thankful for our vet. He is phenomenally great to us. He's a blessing, absolutely a blessing. And other ones I hear $150, $200 an hour, you know, so time is money. So that's where these kind of little minor things, making sure all your stuff works so you can have the least amount of time. So basically it's like being in an operating room, kind of, is you got to be that preparation, and all those nurses running around getting everything gathered up and ready before the surgeon shows up to do the surgery work, right? Everything has to be ready to go. So that's
And it helps when you have somewhere safe to handle them, when you have a little bit of gravel down, so you're not standing in the mud. So
that was a huge help. Steve was ever so thankful about not having to stand in mud when we had the stone down. He was really happy about that. So.
Okay, cows to feed.
Cows to feed. So, hey, what do we got to tell them, Mama? Thanks for watching the video. Thanks for subscribing. And we'll see you next time.
On the farm.